Okay, so my name is Yossi Fine, and I'm from the group Yossi Fine and Ben Aylon, and we do music, we call it From the Blue Desert. And the Blue Desert doesn't have any borders. It's in the Middle East, and it starts somewhere in Israel and ends in Morocco and the Sahara, but with no borders, just like the wind, you know, it has a little bit of everything. Why would I started playing music when I was 4. I come from a very mixed background. My mother is Caribbean, French from Martinique, and my father is from Lithuania. And I grew up in the 70s, so I grew up into rock, you know, hard rock even, you know, and then later heavy funk. And music is something that, you know, it grabs you when you're a kid. Some people, it grabs them when they're teenagers. But to me, it was from the get-go. And so I always wanted to play, and I always loved watching other people, you know, live shows. And it's something that I think music chooses you. You do not choose music. Music chooses you, and you are faced with the rest of your life to be a slave to this and just to make the best out of it, you know what I mean? But you cannot, I think that musicians, if they don't play music, they become mentally ill. Take the music out of a real musician, and for 2 months, 3 months, and you'll see somebody who's not happy, depressed, and stuff like that. So that's really why I think most musicians, and it's the medicine for otherwise a lot of mental problems. If they don't do it, you know, it has to be done for a lot of musicians. And then when you become creative and happy, then you want to immediately share it with the rest of the people. And then you go into all this crazy shit like coming to Womex and spending all this money and preparation and, you know, so much things about business just to share 1 hour of what makes you happy. You know, that's really what it is behind all of it. You know, people might think, oh, they do this music that is sacred, and that's bullshit. They just make people happy when they do it, and they make all this crazy shit around it just to do it. You know, to convince other people that that's what we do. And so I think it's way more simple like that for real musicians. Even the guy today, we saw a guy, right, from Iran, and he plays Kamanche, and he's a legend. If he doesn't do Kamanche, he will become mentally ill. And that's why he does it. You know, it's very simple. You know?
Is it somebody who influenced you in your music?
If the people that influence me is everybody that I really heard. Even if I hated them, they still influence me because of it, you know. But my main influences are, at first, it was like, I grew up on hard rock, so it was Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix. That was like you know, when I was young, that was my heroes, completely. And later it became like more jazz funk, so it was like Miles Davis, Herbie Hancock, Jaco Pastorius, and I'm a bass player really, you know, for all those years. And I love funk, I love Prince. I love Prince. James Brown is like somebody that I always study how this guy, you know, it's one person, it's just one person, and this one person invented the whole language of music. He perfected that language that from James Brown and on, you have hip hop, funk, disco, electronic, you know, you have all those things from one person that, you know, had his own language. So to me, it's always fascinating. And in world music, it's just whatever is around, and it turns me on, and I cannot explain what it is. Mainly, I always found myself drawn to African music. It's always more in my DNA, I guess, and a lot of places in Africa. I ended up playing with a lot of musicians from Mali, guitar player Vieux, Farka, Touré. I played with Bombino. I was their bass player or producer. But I think that also a lot of where I come from is Israel. You have a lot of Palestinian musicians. You have a lot of Moroccans, Ethiopians, Europeans. So all come into one thing. It's not specifically that I follow this thing. We just, when you come from a certain place, it's good when you represent where you come from. Israel is a new country. It doesn't have old traditions of music. So the music that comes out of Israel is only being mixed into new, just like the people. Very normal in Israel if your father is from Morocco and your mother is from Poland. If your mother is from Yemen and your father is from Russia. You know what I mean? It's or like me. So what Israeli music really represents is the new possibilities. And I think Europe in 30 years, Central Europe or like France, Germany, is going to be like that because of the migration of so many ethnicities into Europe. They are going to be mixed, and their kids, the new generation, the German, mother and Turkish father, or, Moroccan parent and then Swedish or whatever, their kids are going to have this new style of music. And in Israel, it comes first because we already been like that for the last 70 years. And so it takes a while, but I think in 30, 40 years, European music is going to be new music. We don't know about it now, but it's going to happen. So the people in the band, we have this incredible drummer named Ben Aylon, who is my partner. He plays percussion and drums in one. He's like a one-man tribe. He studied in Senegal, and so he knows all those African beats. But we like to make people dance, and we find that we are like a trance band. So we make trance music. We have a keyboard player. She's playing electronic keyboard. She plays the bass, and but we don't play like trance, like this electronic trance. We play more like what I said, like this, more like where we come from, a little more Arabic scales and stuff. But it's very trancey. And I play guitar, and it's like rock, African Arab funk. That's what we do. And we like to to make people dance. That's our main thing, and represent where we come from. So our immediate audience is more in the younger audience, hippie. Like a lot of the hippie festivals that, and they're free, open-minded, and they just like to hear music and get some new shit. That's our immediate audience. And then I think later it's more the music lovers that are open-minded to hear maybe rock or trance or funk or African music in a way that they never heard it like that before. It's different. So it's, our audience that reacts to us is from all over. It doesn't have specific thing, but the one thing that they are open-minded.